Something heartbreaking may have just changed the entire MonsterVerse, and a lot of viewers might not even realize it yet. Because episode 3 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 looks like a quiet episode on the surface. There's almost no Titan action, no massive destruction, no giant monsters leveling cities, but what the episode actually reveals might be one of the most tragic secrets in the entire history of Monarch. A secret involving the three people who founded it: Bill Randa, Keiko Miura, and Lee Shaw. And by the end of the episode, one small discovery completely changes how we see Bill Randa, the man who would later become the obsessed Titan hunter we meet in Kong, Skull Island, because the truth behind why he abandoned his son might be far more heartbreaking than we thought, and it all comes down to one letter. This episode is really about secrets. Episode 3 is titled Secrets, and honestly, that title couldn't be more fitting, because almost every storyline in this episode revolves around hidden truths finally starting to surface, secrets between families, secrets inside Monarch, and most importantly, secrets between the three people who built Monarch together. For years, we assumed their relationship was built on loyalty and shared discovery, but this episode reveals something much more complicated and much more painful. Keiko and Lee finally crossed the line. In the past timeline, the episode picks up right after the chaos from episode 2. Keiko and Lee barely survived their encounter with Titan X and the hostile villagers on the island. They escape deep into the jungle, injured and exhausted. Eventually, they find shelter inside an abandoned cabin. And this is where the emotional tension between them finally explodes. For a long time, the show has hinted that something deeper existed between Keiko and Lee, even though Keiko is married to Bill. You can see it in the way they argue, the way they protect each other, the way they look at each other when Bill isn't around. And inside that cabin, believing they might not survive the island, those feelings finally break through. For one night, they stop pretending, they admit what they feel, but the moment passes just as quickly as it begins, because the next morning, reality returns. The letter that changes everything. Keiko knows what happened can't continue. She still loves Bill, and despite the feelings she has for Lee, she believes her life belongs with her husband, so she writes Lee a letter. And that letter becomes the emotional centerpiece of the entire episode. In it, Keiko admits something incredibly painful. She tells Lee that she does love him, but the love she has for Bill is bigger. In another life, she says maybe things would have been different, but in this life, she chooses Bill. So the relationship between Keiko and Lee ends before it ever truly begins, or at least that's what she hopes, because years later, someone else finds that letter. Bill Randa. Bill Randa's heartbreaking discovery. The final moments of the episode jump forward in time. By now, both Keiko and Lee have disappeared into Axis Mundi. Bill is left alone in the real world. He's already grieving the loss of his closest friends. But then something happens that completely shatters him. While going through Lee's belongings, Bill finds the letter Keiko wrote. He recognizes the handwriting immediately, and before he even finishes reading it, the truth becomes painfully clear. His wife, his best friend, both betrayed him. The episode ends before we see his full reaction, but his expression says everything. That moment likely broke something inside him, and it might explain one of the biggest mysteries in the Randa family story. Why Bill sent his son away. Earlier in the episode, Hiroshi reveals something shocking. When he was just 11 years old, his father sent him away. Bill abandoned him and shipped him off to live with relatives. For years, the reason behind that decision was unclear. But now the timeline starts to make sense. Bill discovers Keiko's letter. He realizes the people he trusted most in the world kept a devastating secret from him, and suddenly everything in his life feels shattered. His marriage, his friendships, his family, and Hiroshi becomes a painful reminder of everything he lost. So Bill does something tragic. Instead of holding on to the only family he has left, he pushes his son away, and that emotional damage echoes across generations. Apex is quietly entering the story. While the past timeline focuses on emotional fallout, the present storyline introduces a completely different threat. Apex Cybernetics. MonsterVerse fans immediately recognize that name. This is the same corporation that would later build Mechagodzilla in Godzilla vs. Kong. And in this episode, Apex quietly begins inserting itself into Monarch's operations. At first, they claim they're helping track Titan X, but their actions quickly raise suspicion. They secretly steal Hiroshi's Titan communication technology, and instead of using it to protect people, they use it to expose Titan activity to the world, which sparks global panic. So the question becomes, what does Apex really want? If we follow the timeline of the MonsterVerse, the answer might already be clear. Apex doesn't want to control Titans, they want to replace them. Kate's emotional collapse. Meanwhile, Kate's storyline shows the human cost of everything happening. She returns to San Francisco hoping life might return to normal, but the trauma of G-Day hasn't left her. Everywhere she looks, she sees reminders of the destruction caused when Godzilla fought the Mutos. And now something terrifying is happening. Titan X appears to be moving toward San Francisco, the same city that was nearly destroyed once already. And Kate believes it might be her fault, because in the season premiere, she helped open the portal that allowed Titan X to escape Axis Mundi. To her, it feels like history repeating itself. What Titan X might actually be. Even though Titan X only appears briefly in this episode, the clues around it are getting more interesting. The creature seems connected to the sea scarabs, smaller creatures that behave almost like servants. That suggests something important. Titan X might not just be another random Titan, it might be part of a larger ecosystem. In the MonsterVerse, Titans often serve different roles. Some are predators, some are guardians, and some might function as leaders within entire biological networks. If that's true, Titan X could be one of the most important creatures the series has introduced so far, which makes Apex's growing interest in it even more disturbing. The tragedy at the heart of Monarch. At the end of the day, episode 3 isn't really about monsters. It's about people. Because the biggest reveal in this episode isn't Titan X, it's the emotional tragedy behind Monarch itself. A friendship destroyed by betrayal, a marriage shattered by secrets, and a father whose heartbreak led him to push away the one person who needed him most. Bill Randa wasn't always the hardened Titan hunter we saw in Kong Skull Island. Once upon a time, he was just a man who loved his friends, and one devastating discovery may have changed him forever. Ending setup. Now, Titan X appears to be heading towards San Francisco. Apex is secretly manipulating events behind the scenes, and the painful history of Monarch's founders is finally coming to light, which means Season 2 might be building towards something massive. Because if Titan X reaches land, the MonsterVerse could be facing another disaster on the scale of G-Day, and this time, humanity might not be ready. Outro. But here's the big question. Did Bill actually read the entire letter? And if he did that moment truly destroy the bond between the founders of Monarch? Or is there still another secret the show hasn't revealed yet? Because if the MonsterVerse has taught us anything, it's that the most dangerous monsters aren't always Titans. Sometimes they're the secrets people keep. If you want, I can also give you 3 things that will make this script sound even